Welcome back, crafty friends. It's Alicia of the Call Me Crafty Al YouTube channel, and today I am back with a little process or tutorial video on how I made what I am calling a special date folio. Lately I have been awful about getting birthday cards out to my friends and family on time. Sometimes I remember late, but sometimes I remember so late that even a belated card at that point, it would be moot. So I thought I would create this that I could have in my purse or have on my desk and just kind of look ahead, see like, oh, well, who has a birthday next month, and maybe pre-buy those cards, get them ready to go. The great thing about this is it doesn't matter what year it is. It's not specific to a year. The calendar pages just have the amount of days in that month. And on February I do have 29 just in case of a leap year. But I have 4 pockets inside this folio, so I keep 3 months in each pocket. Now what you could do is, I'm using a binder clip to keep it closed because it does want to come open. But what you could do with that binder clip, like you could pull out the current month and clip that to the front. And that way you kind of have a glance at, oh, you know what? I have an anniversary coming up. I better get a card for that. Or my brother's birthday is coming up. I better get a card out for him. I think this is really going to help me remember those special days. Everybody loves to get stuff in the mail that isn't a bill. I think you could also use this for other special dates. Maybe if you've had a new baby or you know somebody that's going to. It could just be like a first year 1-sentence diary where you could put something funny that happened that day or a milestone that the baby reached. Another thing, it wouldn't necessarily have to be for your family and friends' birthdays and special dates. If you wanted to keep one at work for coworker special days. If you were a teacher and each year you wanted something like this for your student birthdays, you could keep that there just so you can remember those. Maybe even as a simple planner, you could just keep this and write down an appointment or things that you might need to do on those months. It would fit nicely in your purse, or maybe if you have a computer bag you tote around with you a lot. So I think there are lots of other uses besides birthday. Now, as you can tell inside, I do have cardstock sheets that have each of the months and the number of days in that month. I do have this as a PDF file, and I am going to try my best to get that uploaded to my Google Drive and share a link with you so you can print that if you wanted to try one of these. If it does work successfully, I will have that link below and you can click on that and download it. That will be a free download. I just ask that if you use this in a video of your own or on a blog, that you link back to my video, just so people know where you got the file from. So before we get started on the tutorial, I just wanted to ask, if you do enjoy this video, I hope at the end you'll give me a thumbs up. That helps my video get out to more viewers. If you are new to my channel and you're not a subscriber yet, I hope that if you like what you'll see, that you will hit that subscribe button below. If you are already a subscriber, welcome back. Thank you so much for stopping by again. I appreciate each and every view, each and every viewer, and if you leave a comment below and have a question, I try to answer each and every one of those. Sometimes it might take a little bit, but I do try to get to them all. So let's go ahead and get started on the tutorial. Here's a look at some of the supplies that I'll be using today. The first thing are the file folders. I got 10 of these at Dollar Tree for $1. I printed out the month cards onto cardstock, so I have 6 pages here. There are 2 months on each page. I also grabbed out my Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher. If you don't have this, that's fine. You can use a regular size stapler or you can use washi tape. For my pattern paper today, I'm going to be using the confetti stack from Die Cuts with a View. And last but not least, I will be using a scoreboard. The first thing I'm going to do is open up my file folder all the way, and then I score 3 3/4 inches from the bottom. Now my score it was not big enough to allow me to do that all at once, so I did have to do it in 2 parts. Once you have that score line made, you're going to fold up the bottom of the file folder, so you kind of have like a little pocket there at the bottom. Once that's done, you're going to fold it in half backward, and I just reinforce that folding with my bone folder. Now, the next step is to fold that right corner over to the center fold, and you'll want to line that up. Again, I'm using the bone folder, and then the final fold will be the front, and you are going to line it up so the back, kind of the binding edge or the spine, so those folds are equal. You'll see that that front pocket is shorter than the other ones on the inside. I do want to note that if you do not have a scoreboard to do that first score, you could try a ruler and maybe an embossing tool. What I'm doing now is going and measuring each of the 4 panels along the bottom. Now most of those were right under 3 3/4 inches tall, but most of them have different widths. And because I'm going to be covering those up with paper, I just wrote the measurements right on the folder. Most of the papers I use today will be brand new, but this is a project that would be great for scraps as well. Once I have selected the 2 pattern papers for the pockets, I'm going to cut those down to the sizes that I had written on the file folder. Now, if they're a little bit too big, that's okay. You'll see me later, after I've adhered these to the file folder, that I get out my little scissors and just trim off any overlap. When I apply adhesive for this project, I do go ahead and put it on the file folder, and that's just so I can get right up to the edges. And if I put it on the edges of the pattern paper and then have to trim any excess away, this way I will not be trimming away adhesive. Now, if you wanted a border on your pockets, instead of covering them completely, you can just adjust your measurements. When you do go to measure your file folder, it might be slightly different than what I had, so that's why I did not give any measurements for those pocket pieces of paper. Next, I am going to be covering the back of the pockets inside. Now, you do not have to have your pattern paper all the way from the top to the bottom on these, but you do need to go down far enough so it is covered up by the bottom flap. So I think I ended up cutting mine to 4 3/4 inches tall, and then my widths were different. Because the back of these pockets is less than 6 inches that I need tall, I just picked out a single piece of pattern paper to use. I chose this one that says "Toss the confetti and shout hooray" at the top. And what I'm actually going to do, instead of cutting 4 panels, I'm going to be cutting 3, because I'm going to have the middle one just be 9 inches across without any cuts, so that you see the sentiment and I don't accidentally cut it in half. And I know they're going to look a little bit different how they go across the top, but I just use the bottom portion of that paper for the outside panels. For most of my adhesive today, actually I think all, I do use my Scotch ATG gun. And what I like about that is if I have any excess adhesive either below the paper or on the edges, I can just rub at it and that will lift right up. And now it's time to cover the other side of the folder with patterned paper. I will only be covering the left and right columns because I glue those two centers together. When you're measuring, you want to measure about 1/2 inch wider than the front part, just so that pattern paper wraps around into where you adhere the two sides together. I thought this pattern paper would be perfect for the birthday folio. On the front, I don't have to put a sentiment now that there's a little cupcake, and I can just use the other part of the pattern paper on the back. Putting the pattern papers on the covers is pretty much like on the inside. I just use my ATG around the edges, and then once I had the pattern paper on the manila folder, I trimmed off any excess. And now I am going to put adhesive on those two panels that do not have patterned paper. You are going to want to use a strong adhesive here. My ATG will hold this, but you might even want to use the red line or the really tacky tape because this does start to want to pull apart. But now you'll see I have kind of a little book with the inner pages there. I'm not going to make you watch too much of this, but I am going to cut down my calendar pages now. Once these are down to the final size, each month is 3 3/4 inches wide by 7.5 inches tall. The PDF file does include crop marks. I almost forgot. To keep the calendar cards from falling out of the first and last pocket, I do use my tiny attacher right there on the edge, and then I can put 3 months in each of the 4 pockets. I hoped you liked that little look at how I created my special date folio. Again, if you did, I always appreciate a thumbs up. I hope you're all having a crafty day. Thanks. Bye-bye.